So, the new beast from DJI has finally arrived. And since I know that many of you are photography heroes, in this video I will analyze in depth all the different aspects of photography with the Mavic 3. I will show plenty of images taken in different light conditions, both with the main wide-angle lens and with the telephoto one. As you certainly know, the Mavic 3 is the first prosumer drone with a dual lens system. The main camera has a wide-angle field of view of 24mm equivalent and a micro four thirds sensor capable of 20 megapixel photo, the same resolution as the Air 2S and the Mavic 2 Pro. Like the Mavic 2 Pro, it has a variable aperture from 2.8 to f11. The only photo modes available are single shot, automatic exposure bracketing, and timed shots for time lapses. The automatic exposure bracketing, like the previous models, can be set to shoot 3 or 4 shots with an interval of 0.7 stops. I would have preferred to be able to set the interval, or at least to have a wider one. Unlike previous models, there are no HDR or hyperlight mode, but with a big sensor, the Mavic 3 should not need them. According to DJI, apparently the single photo mode applies a similar sort of optimization as the smart mode in the Air 2S behind the scene. Although I'm not so sure, as when I hit the shutter, I don't see the delay needed for multiple shots. Many intelligent modes, including panorama photos and hyperlapse, are not yet available and should be added by a firmware upgrade in a couple of months. The big news is the telephoto lens, with a field of view of 162mm, therefore about 7 times longer than main camera. It is equipped with a half-an-inch sensor, a fixed aperture of f/4.4. It can shoot photos at 12 megapixel resolution, but sadly at the moment only in JPEG format. With a telephoto lens, only auto exposure is available, with only the control over the EV settings. In the description below the video you can find all info and prices. I remember when I did my first photo shooting with the Air 2S. After I loaded the image on my computer, I dropped my cup of coffee on the keyboard and I had to buy a new keyboard and a new coffee. The increase in quality was stunning compared to previous models. With the Mavic 3 in top-down shots and therefore easy light condition, I did not have the same wow effect. The amount of detail and color rendition are very similar to the Air 2S, which is excellent. In my opinion, these two models are by far the best of the Mavic line for still image quality. But in easy light condition, the bigger sensor of the Mavic 3 does not really yield major advantages compared to the 1-inch one of the Air 2S. I will obviously do a head-to-head video comparing photo quality in the two drones, but my first impression is that both excellent detail and the colors of the Air 2S are maybe just a touch more natural, but I'm splitting hairs. Let's tilt the camera up and move to a situation very frequent with drones, where we have a big portion of the sky as well as elements on the ground. We can consider these situations as moderately high dynamic range, when the sun is behind us, as it is the case here. Here the mighty sensor of the Mavic 3 starts to show its power. The amount of information, both in the clouds and in the elements of the ground, is stunning, and the files respond extremely well to color grading. I am amazed by the increasing quality for drones of the Mavic line in the last couple of years. Photos taken with the Mavic 3 are close to the level obtained with a full-frame traditional camera. Getting closer to the sun, the image quality remains outstanding. With the sun just outside the frame, more or less at 10 o'clock, there is absolutely no flare or loss of detail. The rendition of the clouds is a thing of beauty, and it is very easy to recover the shadows as the file contains plenty of information. DJI and Hasselblad have certainly done something to the lens, probably some coating, as in models before the Air 2S, any shot with the sun anywhere near or in the frame would be destroyed by horrible flares, chromatic aberration and lack of detail. The Mavic 3 Pro, once again, it's almost in full frame territory when the sun is in the frame. Only in this image I notice a big loss of detail, but the conditions are extreme. Just a few years ago I used to say that with a drone I would never shoot towards the south, as photos or footage in the direction of the sun were an absolute disaster. In low light conditions, the Air 2S was a huge improvement compared to previous models, and with the macro four thirds sensor of the Mavic 3, we should expect even better results. And the new beast does not disappoint. The scene here was very dark, but I was able to lift the overall luminosity a lot. Up to ISO 400, the image is pristine. At ISO 800 we start to see a hint of noise, mostly chromatic, in the sea and the sky, but something that we can very easily take away with any denoiser. For photos, I don't really see the need for using value above 800, especially with a drone equipped with control of the aperture. At ISO 1600 there is certainly an increase in noise, but the detail in the building and the tree is quite well maintained. At ISO 3200 there isn't much more degradation compared to ISO 1600. Recently, for processing and organizing my images, I've been using On1 Photo Raw, a program that fits very well my needs. It has an artificial intelligent noise reduction that I find outstanding. You will find info about On1 Photo Raw in the description below. As you can see, after denoising with On1 Photo Raw, the noise is history, and even at ISO 3200 the image is still usable if really needed. Up until 3 years ago, I used to consider drones like noise machine, and I would never venture beyond the base ISO value. With the Mavic 3 and the Air 2S, noise is not an issue anymore, even in very low light. One of the main features of the Mavic 3 is the second lens, a Telephoto one with a very deep zoom factor. As I mentioned earlier, the quality is not the same as the main one, and on top of that the functionalities are at the moment very limited. There have been several people complaining about the zoom functionality, also known as Explorer mode, but I found it a very useful new weapon, despite its limitations. As you have seen in these images, the quality is not outstanding, but not a disaster. Let's have a look at this scene taken with the main wide-angle lens, and then some shot taken with the telephoto lens at 7x optical zoom and 14x digital. In this case we can see the town of Taormina across the Mediterranean Sea. It is at a distance of 45 kilometers, a bit less than 30 miles. Therefore there is plenty of dirt in the air. The result, in my opinion, is not too bad under the circumstances. But it must be said that the JPEG files are nowhere near as solid as the RAW ones of the wide-angle camera, and there is hardly any latitude for color grading. Okay, I need to have a quick word face-to-face with DJI. This drone is expensive and at the top of the prosumer line. The dual camera system has been drummed up as the most visible feature. I can understand the small sensor and the fixed aperture, but I really think it should add support for RAW files and manual exposure very soon. Come on DJI, you can do it. I have tested the result of the same photo taken at all the different aperture values from f2.8 to f11. Here you can see the value in the middle compared to the lowest and the highest. There is practically no difference in detail and sharpness, and this is an excellent result. As generally, there is a loss of quality from the middle apertures to the extreme ones. In all the different photos taken so far, I have not noticed any fringing or chromatic aberrations. Using a small aperture, it is possible to get some nice star-shaped lights. Hasselblad has certainly put some effort in the building of this lens, which is of extremely high quality for prosumer drone standards. Click on this link to watch my review of the new features of the Mavic 3. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video.